Today, the Harris Community Center, located on North Alexander Street in Belton, is open to everyone, regardless of race, creed, or color. But this structure's foundation, which once supported the weight of a school, is full of memories for students who were taught separate from their peers.
I started the school here in 1951 in the first grade, and I graduated in 1963 from this school. Belton at that time was segregated, and this was the all-black school from the first to the 12th grade. We got a good education, but for that time, it's a funny thing about going to Harris School. You didn't realize that what you were missing until after you graduated and went to college.
According to Harris High alumni Roscoe Harrison, West Belton High School, located less than a mile from the Harris Community Center, was built in the 1800s. In 1935, a fire destroyed the frame structure. The school was rebuilt in 1936 at this location and renamed in honor of Thomas Breckinridge Harris, the school's first principal. But the newly built T.B. Harris High didn't include new supplies.
For example, we got hand-me-downs. Everything that Belton High School had and that was worn out, and the other schools that were the predominantly white schools, they sent them over here. We had textbooks that were tattered and torn. Some of them you couldn't even get your name in the book. Everything was a hand-me-down. We had second-rate everything.
Due to lack of space inside the school, there was no science lab, no fine art venues, or even a place to exercise. A gym was eventually built for the students in 1960.
There were 6 classrooms, 2 classes per classroom. And we're sitting in what was the 9th and 10th grade classroom, and across from me was 11th and 12th grade classroom. And the library was in here. So we had a total of about roughly 300 students.
Within the walls of these classrooms were teachers who not only taught, but counseled their students towards academic success and career opportunities.
I can remember we had an English teacher, Ms. Annie Dugat. And Ms. Dugat we thought was like a Tell of the Hun. I mean, she was one tough cookie. But she was getting us ready for college. I can remember she would make us read little Reader's Digest short stories and stand up before the class and recite those stories to the class. And she taught us Shakespeare. You had to learn Macbeth in your senior year. She taught us Shakespeare. She taught us the classics, and so we had a wonderful experience. We had teachers that counseled us, but we didn't have school counselors. Mrs. Dugat was one of them. She would tell us, "Now, son, girl, you're going to major in this. You should study education. You should study this." She was really the one that encouraged me to major in journalism.
T.B. Harris High was the home of the Blue Dragons, and these athletic boys and girls had great pride in their sports and plenty of school spirit, too.
We had a good football team. We were blue and white, and Big Red, of course, red and white. We played football on Saturday night. Big Red played on Friday night. Where the Wilson Kersee field is now was the old Tiger field, and that's where we played football. We had 25 boys that played football, so it was barely over 2 teams. And those days you played both ways, both offense and defense. And so we had a good football team. We had a good basketball team. All of our athletic events, we excelled because at that time you had all black districts. We played against other schools, districts that had, that were segregated.
Belton integrated in 1963 under freedom of choice, and T.B. Harris High School closed in 1966. The former school was renovated, an extension was added to the building, and it was turned into a community center. Each room in the community center is dedicated to a former teacher or principal, and a Harris High marker was dedicated at the center as a historical reminder for visitors and former students. These Blue Dragons also began holding biannual reunions in 1983.
It's not growing. We're losing a lot of our ex-students. We lost at least 16 in the past 2 years. So every year it seems to be going down. But every year we seem to have a good turnout. This year we don't have quite 100 people that have registered.
Ora Jean Butler graduated from Harris High in 1960. She became the president of the West Harris High Ex-Students Association in 2008 and enjoys getting together with former students who travel far and abroad to catch up on old times.
Oh, well, I have a lot of fun memories. I always enjoyed all my teachers. They were always so wonderful. And I enjoyed having homemaking classes. I enjoyed that. It was just a marvelous time. And we would always we had our little girl basketball team. We were able to have that. And I enjoyed doing that. And I tried to run track, but I wasn't good at running track. So, and from the second grade through high school, I was a majorette. In the last 4 years, I was considered a lead majorette.
At a recent reunion, they honored 4 graduates, ages 90 and above. Emma Jane McNeese Johnson traveled from El Paso to the reunion and shared how she became a student of Harris High.
See, my daddy was a preacher, and he preached for the Wholeness Church, Church of Christ, rather. He was gone quite often to other churches, preaching revivals and such. So my grandmother moved my mother and all of hers over to Belton, from Temple to Belton, and that's where we stayed with my grandmother.
Emma Jane became a teacher, married, had 5 boys and 1 girl, and proudly touts that all of her children have college degrees. Many of the graduates of Harris High accomplished great things despite adversity.
Most of our graduates have become successful, very successful. We have lawyers and doctors and teachers and a lot of professional people that graduated from Harris High School. I graduated here. I became, thank God, successful.
And Roscoe shares his successes with his grandchildren and hopes that they will pass on his stories to future generations to come.
Segregation was kind of a way of life. That's the way I grew up. And we didn't feel discriminated against because that was a way of life. And I have grandchildren now, and they're going to school in Temple. And it is so much different now, you know, because they don't know what even segregation is about. They don't know all that. I make them watch these civil rights documentaries and things like that, and try to teach them where we have come from. And we have come from a long way.